You might think you know your spouse really well, and you might know, what they want to do, what the involvement they want to do is, and it might be completely way off. And again, you might not want them to be involved, and that's fine too. As long as you're going to be able to have that conversation with them, and they also don't want to be involved, because that would be awkward, as if you don't want them to be, but they want to be. Then there's going to be resentment there as well. So then you need to find out, well, like, where can I have them involved to where they're feeling involved but not, and why the fuck don't you want to have them involved?
Yeah,
That's the other.
going on here?
That's the other question. If you don't want to have them involved in your business, and they want to be anyway, then maybe you should reevaluate.
Dig a little deeper.
Why you sleep in the same house anyway. It's the most important thing, I think, because without that conversation and that clarity, you're not going to get all the other things. All right. What's up, guys? My name is Eric Perry, and this is
Sierra Perry.
And welcome to the Uncensored Entrepreneur Show with Eric and Sierra. This is our first episode. It's our intro episode. So lucky you get to find out a little bit about what the show's about. Basically, in this show, we talk about real shit. Our target audience is people who are married, people who are in relationships, people who are entrepreneurs, also married and in a relationship, whether together in business or their own thing or whatever that looks like. The reason why we do this is because we ourselves are, go figure, married and entrepreneurs. And so with that comes a lot of tension, balancing, quote unquote, arguments, things like that. So, personally, I've learned in my life different methods and different ways to constantly kind of overly communicate or deal with things. And by no means are we perfect, but we try to have a little bit more fun with it and communicate a little bit. We know each other very well, so
We've come a long way.
Yeah, like we've been through a lot. Still, like I said, not perfect, but the purpose of the show is to try to target those that might need help or advice on how to deal with, running multi-million-dollar companies, but not ripping each other's throats out at the end of the day, or throughout the day, and then coming home and expecting, happy families, clean houses, and sex every night. So that is the purpose of the show.
On top of keeping kids happy.
Yeah. So you can subscribe to our YouTube channel at Uncensored Entrepreneur Show. You can also find our episodes and subscribe on Spotify. Some of the topics that we're going to be discussing in these episodes are things like money, right? That's a big one. Decisions, who makes them, our responses to them, our reactions rather. Family. If it's more than just you and your spouse or you and your partner, there's kids involved, how to kind of work that in there, even employees, how to find that, quote unquote balance, and as well as other, the spouse's involvement, what your expectations are, what they possibly should be, or I guess the fact that you shouldn't have expectations and more just communicate, things like that.
What the spouse is even wanting to do. Anything.
If anything, yeah. So just involvement overall, and then as well as the juicy intimacy part, and how to, like I said, not argue all day with your business hat on and then come home and expect magic in the bedroom to happen. So those are some of the topics that we're going to discuss. Obviously, we can discuss, we might have caller questions on some episodes. Definitely some interviews in the future with some other married entrepreneurs that are more advanced than even we are in terms of their relationship and business relationship and personal relationship and how they kind of navigate through that.
Like people we look up to.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if anyone has like suggestions on things we should talk about or questions and they're not going to call in, social media, you can send us messages on social media.
Yeah. I already got it all figured out though, so I pretty much know everything. So there's no.
He's usually got it all under control, so I don't know why.
No, though, if there's a topic that you hear as you are watching these episodes or listening to these episodes that you want, obviously you can always message us on social media. And to see more of us, I guess, you can always follow our social media too. So our handles will be in the bios, but essentially at Eric the Roofer is mine, and then
I don't even know what mine
I
is.
think it's at Sierra_Perry, so real original is hers. So yeah, so that's kind of the gist of the show and kind of what we're going to talk about. And what triggered this is, aside from going through our own struggles on a daily basis, because my biggest thing is running the business from the ground up and starting, and we're new, a couple of years old, doing a few $1 million and working out of our house. Don't even have an office, so that just makes it even more joyful to be around. So the kids are trained with the whole, when Dad's snapping the fingers, it's hey, he's on the phone, and be quiet. And
Book of death.
yeah,
that I give them.
yeah. So, the purpose behind it is, obviously we've gone through our fair share of struggles and arguments and navigation, and, trying to figure out the best way to
Just
not
make it all work.
yeah, not completely compromise everything in our family or in our own relationship just for the business. But obviously the business has to grow, it has to thrive, because that's what pays the bills. So, anything to add to that? Like, if we can give them one thing now, there, for whoever's listening, one thing now that might help them, give them a little taste, I guess, of what they might be able to experience in some of the episodes, of what might help them. What's the first thing that comes to mind? For me, because I circled on it, I would say, okay, I'll say the involvement. I was going to say the intimacy, but I can't shoot that load on question, or on episode 1. I feel like I gotta leave some cliffhangers. I gotta ease in. That's what she said. So, let's talk about involvement. I think that's probably the biggest thing. I had an expectation of what I want Sierra to do to be involved into the company. I knew what she was good at, and frankly, I could care less if she was good at, because I could train her and groom her, and even if it's something that she absolutely hated, which coincidentally, 100% of it was, is I didn't care. I wasn't going to pay an employee to do it when she can do it. We're a startup company. You can do it. And I had this expectation that, obviously, I have the technical knowledge, right? So our business is roofing. I have the technical knowledge. I have all that background. And so obviously I'm going to be the one going out and looking at the roofs and doing that sort of thing. So, but as far as answering the phones, having somebody to field the calls, enter the data, do all that stuff, that was her. Communication to the customers, whatnot. But Sierra, I don't know how the hell I was able to get her onto a fucking podcast, but Sierra
Me neither.
is very, very, has high social anxiety. She doesn't like talking in front of people. I think it's different because it's a camera, and plus,
Well, even like knowing that someone's going to be watching this at some point is making me nervous.
yeah. So I lied to her, and I told her I was never going to post this. That it's just for our personal library. So that's how I got her on there. But so that's her thing, right? She doesn't like communicating. She'll text people all freaking day, but in terms of picking up the phone and calling somebody, you ever hear those employees that work at a Starbucks and fuck up a drink, and then the person who ordered the drink will yell at them, and then that employee like cries? Sierra's that employee that cries. True story, as a matter of fact, with her Starbucks tenure. But she has high social anxiety, and so, but for me, I'm like, well, somebody's got to answer the phone. And so she had the company phone. That was her deal. When we first started, it was a cell phone with the main company number, and so that way I'm trying to sell it. Well, if you got to do, grocery shopping, just carry the cell phone with you, and just tell the kids, hold up on aisle 4, hold up, I got to answer this call, Eco Roofing Solution.
Yeah.
And enter in the data and all this other stuff, and dealing with all the communications with the customer.
And I was just going to say that as far as involvement, we never really talked about if I even wanted to.
No.
Like you said, you had expectations. You just kind of gave me the phone and said, here, this is the job you're doing.
Right.
I knew that I wanted to help in some way, but I didn't know how. But I didn't really have a choice. You just kind of threw me in there, and I just started doing it. And I'm glad that I did, but that was hard at the beginning, because I didn't feel like that I didn't feel like I had a choice, because I wasn't unhappy or anything, but
well, you didn't have a choice.
well, no, that's what I'm like. I wasn't being held hostage.
Right.
But,
yeah. Perhaps it made you grow to
wasn't
resent helping. or hating the situation you were in, or whatever. It wasn't something you want to do. And you're right. We never had that conversation.
Yeah.
And if we did, knowing me, the conversation would have been like, "Hey, do you want to do this?" And she would have said, "No, not really. I'm not really comfortable." Which we've had that conversation after the fact numerous times. And what was my response
To what?
to you saying that you hate making phone calls and you don't want to call the customers and stuff like that? Like, once that was identified.
I didn't have to anymore.
No, that was down the road. What was my initial
Oh, I
response?
thought you meant like now.
No.
Too bad.
Yeah,
too bad. Fucking call
It's like,
them.
you got to do it.
They
I
have
mean,
to
I
be
don't know.
called.
Yeah, you're gonna have to get over it. In my head, right? You grow up in two different worlds. Like, I don't have social anxiety. Maybe it appears that way sometimes, but you get me in a room, and once I get to know somebody a little bit, or once somebody, fucks up and lets me start talking in front of a crowd, I don't stop.
It never
But
stops.
yeah. But it was just something that had to be done. And so my thought process was, the more she did it, the more practice it is, then the more she'll like it or get used to it. And that's not really the case with social anxiety. And it doesn't have to be social anxiety.
Yeah.
It could be kids. She wants to be a mom. We have 5 kids. 5 kids. So that's why the intimacy is a big topic for me. So we have 5 kids. And I think when we started the company, we had 5 kids. But I never asked that question, because it was like, in my mind, it was like, hey, like, shit or get off the pot. Like, we gotta survive. This is how we're gonna start the company. Because I wanted to save the expense of an employee. And the expense of the employee is so nominal compared to what it actually costs you to not listen and to make your own decision, right? So when you're essentially forcing somebody to do something, which is what we were doing, they're not going to be happy in what they do. That's going to increase depression. It's going to trigger depression. Even if you're not prone to depression, you will be.
I ended up being in the office some nights until 9 p.m. and wouldn't even see the kids until I was tucking them in for bed.
Yep.
So that was one of the big things for me, was feeling like they were just having to raise themselves, and I just wasn't involved anymore. So that was probably one of the hardest parts.
Yeah. And again, our office was our house. So me, the bad husband mentality was like, well, at least you're home, But then again, we're like snapping at the fingers, yelling at the kids, saying no, like go upstairs, like we'll be up in a minute, whatever that looks like.
That was the extent of the parenting.
That was the extent of the parenting.
Yeah.
And then whenever we're done, we're like, all right, we got to feed these things to keep them alive.
And put them to bed, and then
Yeah,
the same thing
and
the next
start
day.
over the next day.
Yeah.
So the communication regarding the involvement is imperative. Definitely, probably step one, the most important thing you can do as a couple that's an entrepreneur. Now, again, this is if you're in a relationship or something like that, and you own a business together. Now you might have a spouse that's like, hey, I want to be involved, and this is what I want to do. This is what I want my role to be, and that's cool. But I think communicating. I might want her to be involved in one area because it's an area that I have a need for, and she might want to be involved in a completely different area, right? Like now, her involvement is more higher level stuff. Her involvement, let's be real, is listening to me just chatter about crap to try to
planning out the week and
Yeah,
asking for my advice, but not actually asking for
not
it.
actually. It's really just listening to me talk. Every once in a while, I got so many things going on through my head, and it's like I just need to talk it out. Like I need to talk to you about this stuff.
Yeah.
But really, it's just me talking out loud and her
Thinking
listening.
out loud, yeah.
Yeah. And then her thing is like giving gift cards to the employees and shit like that. Like that's
Making sure our employees know that we appreciate them and everything they do. I love that shit.
yeah. She loves giving away stuff, and treating people. So
You don't get that at a lot of jobs.
yeah.
You don't get told thank you from your boss every day.
Yeah.
So I think for our team, it's made a huge difference. They really appreciate little stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. But yeah, I think that conversation, has to happen. If you've already not had that conversation and you're just going with the flow, or maybe you had a loose version of the conversation, just be really clear. On one side, there's always going to be somebody who's more involved in the business than the other, and the other person might not want to be involved at all, right? A couple that I know that are entrepreneurs, they had that conversation. They're much, much smarter than I. They had that conversation. Maybe one day you'll see them on the podcast. They had that conversation up front. And the wife was like, I don't
want to do anything.
I don't want to do it. Like, I want to be a mom. And the husband was like, okay, go be a mom. And he hired the staff. And I'm like, man, that was so smart, you know. But you know, and I feel like that allows her to do what she wants. And every once in a while, you know, she'll ask, like, she'll, like, I don't know, try to be involved or something like that. And then now it's like this big monster that if you're not involved in it from the beginning, you're just kind of lost. And so having that conversation is imperative. You know, you want to make sure that you're on the same page. You want to make sure that you're not, you know, forcing somebody to do something. And for the other party, right? So in our case, I'm saying man and woman. So in our case, like when I ask her, once you ask your partner what they want their involvement to be, and hopefully you're not asking the one that started the business, because that's, you know. But once you're asking your partner what they want the involvement to be, partner, you need to be 100% clear and honest. Look into the future, right? If you don't have kids and you want to have kids and you plan on having kids and you want to be involved now, play all that into effect. I mean, obviously things change, but you can't leave somebody hanging, and you also don't want to start something just because you want to satisfy your partner and make them happy and whatever, and make them want to have kids with you because you're, you know, saying yes to them, but then end up hating it, right? So you want to make sure that you're honest and you're clear. You know, that it might look like, yeah, you know, I'll be involved for a little while, but I want to start a family, and once that happens, you know, I need you to hire somebody, or I need to whatever. And then, you know, and then that person, like, don't be like, oh, nobody's filling out an application. Fucking hire somebody and you know, get her out of the office. Yeah, whatever you got to do. But you know, be clear on that expectation. And again, you know, this show is also very targeted towards the people who are dumb like me and did not have that conversation.
Yeah,
right?
So you're getting our advice now on what we wish we would have done.
Yeah. So it doesn't mean like you're fucked because you didn't have that conversation.
Yeah, no, but you can have it now.
What it means is you now need to have that conversation, right? So I got some friends in mind, you know, that I think of that I want to shout out that also really actually locked in probably Sierra to want to do this, because it made her understand the mission of why I wanted to do this. So, and let's be clear. Initially, I wanted to do this podcast to better communicate with my own wife, right? Without the listeners, without whatever. Just another way for us to communicate behind a camera, behind a microphone, to where maybe, you know, we'll bring up things, you know, that to talk about that have been bothering us that we normally wouldn't in any other circumstance. And so just another way to communicate and to also spend time together and have a little bit of fun.
We get to do a lot. We don't get to talk. We don't get to be alone just talking ever. So this kind of forces us to have that alone time to talk.
Did I mention the 5 kids?
Yeah. And aside from like stuff that's bothering us, we might even learn new things about each other, things that I don't know, never talked about. Because you get so caught up in the day-to-day stuff and the kids and all that you kind of run out of time to, like, sometimes there's whole days where we don't even like have a full conversation.
Yeah, so that's why we started. But then we also, you know, obviously a goal for me is to also, if there's one person I can help out there that's not going to completely fuck their relationship up with their spouse or their partner just because of a business or a stupid decision that they can maybe change it, then that's my goal, right? And there's some people that we care about, right, that are probably where we were just like a couple of months ago. And you know, if there's any advice or light that I can shine on them, you know, because business is business. I don't care if you manufacture bubble gum, if you do roofing, or if you're a fucking engineer. Entrepreneurship is entrepreneurship. It's heavy. You know, we were trying to think of names, and one of the ones was Entrepreneur Burrito, and I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? And then I was thinking about it. I'm like, you know, burrito,
All rolled up
it's just like a bunch of shit rolled together into one.
Yeah.
And so, kind of, it makes sense. And so, there's a lot of things. You know, it's not, more than likely whoever's listening to this is either an entrepreneur themselves or they want to be an entrepreneur. And so you already know that it is a lot of shit flying in and out of your brain at all times of the day and night. There is no off. You know, and you don't want to compromise your family for that, because the reason why you do this is for your family. So some friends of ours, Tyler and Sandra, love those guys. Like super, like freaking perfect couple. And we had a conversation with them. We've kind of touched on it, dabbled on it a little bit, about our lives, and then had a conversation a little bit about it recently at an event. And I can see in their eyes, actually, when I was talking to them at a home show, I can see it in their eyes a little bit, that they are where we are. They are where we were not that long ago. And by no means super happy marriage, super happy couple, beautiful kids. But that confusion of like, what do I do? Where do I go? Yeah.
How do you juggle all this stuff?
The expectation, conversation, I don't think was had.
Yeah.
And therefore it was kind of left in limbo to be like, man, it just wasn't defined. Yeah. So it was kind of like the decision that I made, like, oh, this is what I want you to do, right?
You might be doing that today, and then tomorrow I'm going to ask you to do something else, so the rules weren't defined.
And don't get me wrong, sometimes as a spouse, I mean, you're expected to kind of help.
Yeah.
Unless you say you want to be hands-off. I shouldn't say you're expected to kind of help. Let me rephrase. I shouldn't tell you what you should be doing, because then I'm going to go and fuck marriages up. But what I do, like, there's times... Just last week, I had a driver sick. It was great because it gave me the opportunity to identify that he was overburdened, and now I need to hire more drivers. But I had to go running around in the field, but I had other obligations. So who do you think I asked to go run around in the field, right? So Sierra was in a truck all freaking day for 2-3 days straight, running materials around to a job site.
I think I offered to help.
She might have offered. Yeah, she kind of likes that. Don't let her fool you. She kind of likes that a little bit every once in a while, running around.
Drive around in a truck by myself. Well, back to the Sandra thing.
Yep.
Talking to her, and I don't think I didn't tell her this, but talking to her was what kind of made me realize that what we say could possibly help other couples or just other people. I never thought that anything that I had to say would help another woman, another mom, whatever, because I feel like I don't do much. So I was like, what value is she getting from me asking these questions? She's asking me these questions as we're eating lunch. How did you do this? How did you guys handle this? So what do you do when this happens? And I obviously was just answering her questions, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, why does she care what I have to say? Like what, like who am I? I'm not anything special. But then I realized that she's, they're just a little bit behind us in business wise. So she's looking for advice, and I'm like, well, and she's actually listening to what I'm saying and taking it in, and she's appreciating it. So I'm like, well, maybe, the podcasting is a good idea. Maybe we can actually help other couples. So talking to her, it was just a big eye opener. Thanks, Sandra.
Yeah.
And also why building relationships with the people around you is so important. You've been trying to get me to get close to everyone that we're around for so many years, and I just can't because I'm awkward. But talking to Sandra made me realize why I need to be an adult and talk to other people.
Yep. Yeah. So, I mean, just to recap, the importance of the involvement, clarity, in the communication with your spouse or your partner is absolutely imperative. You might think your spouse really well, and you might know, what they want to do, what the involvement they want to do is, and it might be completely way off. And again, you might not want them to be involved, and that's fine too. As long as you're going to be able to have that conversation with them, and they also don't want to be involved, because that would be awkward, as if you don't want them to be, but they want to be. Then at that case, then there's going to be resentment there as well. So then you need to find out, well, where can I have them involved to where they're feeling involved, but not, involved at the capacity. And why the fuck don't you want to have them involved? That's the other question. If you don't want to have them involved in your business, and they want to be anyway, then maybe you should reevaluate.
Dig a little deeper.
Why you sleep in the same house anyway. It's the most important thing, I think. Because without that conversation and that clarity, you're not going to get all the other things. I had that expectation. That ties together with everything. I mean, I had the expectation of this is what you're going to do. Why would I hire an employee? You're so good at it. I used to get compliments all the time about how wonderful the gal in the office was, right? And
I
that,
just
I was
didn't
like, "Yep,
believe
that's
it.
my wife," all the time, all the time. And like when they found out that I hired somebody and she was gone, they're like, "Why? She was so great." And I'm like, "I know, like she hates the company, you know."
What
So
they don't know is that I was on the phone being super nice and sweet, and then like as soon as I hung up, I had to like breathe into a bag
breathe
to
into a
make sure
bag,
I'm
yeah,
okay.
trying to vomit.
But
So
also like I was a stay-at-home mom for 12 years before that, so like I had never done anything that involved office work. I knew nothing about roofing, and he told me, "You don't have to know anything about roofing. You just have to answer the phone."
yeah, hey, you're VP, answer this phone.
But sometimes customers would have a question right away, and I would just have to tell them, I'll find out for you, and then I'll give you a call back. So it was kind of a learning curve, going from being a stay-at-home mom for 12 years and then being like, all right, you're my office person. So that was fun.
Yeah, yeah, and like I have this expectation, right, for her to be involved in a particular capacity, and then she hates it and she doesn't want that, but I don't care. It just has to get done, and so that causes aggression. Well, what do you mean you didn't get this done? Well, why didn't you get this done? And then that could potentially cause questions or harsh questions or, let's be real, arguments. And then I'm very business like systematic. You have your business hat, your relationship hat, your whatever. I'm rocking all of them all the time, and there is no previously when I would say quote unquote every time I said balance, that's because there is no balance. It doesn't exist. It's just time management. You're an entrepreneur and a business owner when your kids have to go to bed, but you're a father when your kids have to go to bed or to school or whatever. Like it's all like none of it shuts off. It's not like, well, let me clock out.
One's just more in the front of your
It's
mind
just the
than
life
the
that you
other.
choose. Yeah. So it's just time management. But my point is, I have this expectation of her to get this done. And so I got like my business hat on, right? And then when something doesn't get done, it causes tension, it causes arguments. And she's like, I said, I'll get it done. And my thing is, when I ask you to do something, I want it done 5 minutes ago.
I'm getting like PTSD thinking about all
Yeah.
of the shit that used to happen.
And she would just say, I told you I got it done. I was going to get it done. So I'm going to get it done.
I strive under pressure, so I wait until the last minute to do things.
Yeah.
And then I get them all done, and I'm like, yeah, I'm a rock star. But when he asked me to get it done, he wanted it done right then.
Well, the reason why is because by the time you're done with those, I got 15 more things that I
Yeah.
need done. And so all of a sudden I give her those, okay, well, so I'm teaching a lesson, right? So I'm more of a dad. I'm more of a shitty boss than I am a husband. And I'm saying, okay, well, now I need you to hurry up and get that shit done because I need you to get this, this, and this done too. And so, like, it's just tension all day, right? And it gets done, whatever, I help out, whatever happens, it gets done. But then I come home and it's time for bed and she lays down in bed and what do I want, right? I worked all day, I high stressed or whatever. So, I want some naked time, but then, sorry, Mom. So I want some naked time, but what does she want? Well, I've been a fucking
You
asshole
just
all
yelled
day.
at me all day.
Yeah, like I've been an asshole all day. So me, I'm like, I hit the switch. I'm done. Like work's over. We got the shit taken care of. It's over. Whatever.
I'm an emotional
On to the
woman.
next.
I can't just switch
Yeah.
like
So
that.
she's like damaged, and like from the day.
Like,
and
I need you to apologize for everything
yeah, like
that you
so.
said today.
And I'm just like, and then by the time I think of like how to fix it, I'm snoring. I'm asleep. And then I'm gonna get mad at her in the morning, like, oh man, what happened? There's no, foreplay starts with how you talk to your woman in the morning when in regards to work. You know what I mean? So, send a Starbucks or something to the house, and you make your own phone calls. But or just whatever that expectation is. So have that conversation, have that expectation, figure out what that is, and then when you do, don't deviate from it. If something happens and you need her help in another area and it's not a regular thing, if it becomes a regular thing, you've now identified another position that you need to hire for in your organization. If you find yourself like, hey, like I've just realized I'm too busy to post on social media every day. I just need you to remember to post. You know, hire somebody to post if that's not something that she agreed that she wanted to do, or he, or whatever.
Just defining the roles and keeping them at that, so that
Yeah.
you're not adding in a bunch of other things, and then that person's like, you told me I only had to do this job. Like, now it's becoming way too much, and it becomes overwhelming really fast.
Yeah. I mean, you'll squeeze stuff in, you'll sneak more stuff in, and you'll always find something to do.
Yeah.
You know, because there's a million things to do, you know, in business. But, you know, it might be a conversation every time. It might be a frequent conversation. It might be like, hey, I want to help. I want to do this or whatever. But then you just have that conversation like, hey, this came up and I just don't have time for it. What do you think we should do? You know, if they're involved in any way, what do you think we should do? Do you think that you can help out with this until I hire? Do you think that I should hire now? I wouldn't even say help out until you hire, because then there's not going to create that pressure and that sense of urgency to hire, because you got somebody doing it already, and then you're just going to have them do it, and then, you know, there you go. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, have that conversation and subscribe to our YouTube. Subscribe. Again, that was at the Uncensored Entrepreneur Show.
Like, follow, and share.
Like, follow, and share. So you can listen to the full-length podcast on Spotify, called the Uncensored Entrepreneur Show with Eric and Sierra. And we're going to be posting every week, so you can get awesome content like this on how we have fucked our marriage up enough to manage to figure out how to fix it and still stay together so that we can help you. So that's what we're here for. Yeah. So again, if you want to follow more of us and see more of our lives, our posting, I'm going to be honest, all I do, I mean, every once in a while I post some family stuff, some whatever stuff, some motivational shit, but my stuff is majority of just roofing and my roofing business. But
it'll be like 10 roofs and then a picture of a kid.
A picture of a kid, you know, probably wearing a roofing shirt.
Yeah.
But you can find my handle at Your Bearded Roofer on Instagram, or if you're old like me and you got a Facebook, it's just Eric Perry. Sierra.
Mine is Sierra __ Perry.
Ooh, 2 underscores.
Had to get a little spicy
Underscore
with
one
that.
must have been taken, I guess.
Yeah,
So.
probably.
But yeah, at Sierra __ Perry. Hopefully by episode 2 we'll have a better name than that we can give you. But and her LinkedIn, geez, I'm old. Her Facebook is just Sierra Perry. Stay tuned for next week, whenever we will have a whole new topic and some more gold for you to try to swoon your wife or your partner over, and we'll give you some tips and tricks on
how to
not fuck it up so you can
kids.
score in the bedroom.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Or something about the kids. Anyway.
A little bit of everything, a little shit show.
So that is all. Y'all have a wonderful week and go out and make a difference for somebody today.
Bye.
Push a P. Yeah, push a P. Turn me up. Turn me up, P. Pointers in the paddock, get my piece. I'm push a P.
Cop new hammers for my P. We don't want no peace.
Got a spot across the spot, just for peace.
Drop the data, now we plotting. Exotic peas.